Do you ever notice that? The older we get, the more we're afraid of staying home? Just one evening with no invitations, no new messages, no plans on the calendar, and suddenly your mind starts throwing out all kinds of questions. Am I being left out? Is my life boring? Am I living the wrong way, when everyone else is going out and I'm just lying at home? The world today keeps drilling one message into our heads. If you want to live right, you have to go out. If you want to live cool, you have to be busy. If you want a worthy life, you need a ton of plans, a ton of stories, a ton of check-in spots. But what if all of that is just a collective illusion? What if the truth is, staying home, staying still with yourself, is actually one of the best things you can do for your life right now? It sounds completely opposite to the always on the move culture out there. But in this video, I want to invite you to try something a little different. Right finger to look at staying home, not as some shameful kind of loneliness, but as an asterisk inner training ground, asterisk a place where you become more grounded, calmer, and freer. We're going to walk through 15 perspectives, 15 very ordinary but deeply meaningful angles on staying home. From learning how to be alone and still feel complete, to healing your mind, doing deep work, then learning to delay instant gratification, building inner discipline, all the way to cutting off toxic relationships and stepping into a quiet kind of confidence, one that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to believe everything right away. Just listen and see if there's a part that touches even a small corner of your own life. If you're ready to look at staying home with a new pair of eyes, then let's start with the very first idea. Let's pause for a moment and look straight at this question. Are you truly comfortable being by yourself? I don't mean sitting alone with your phone, TikTok, or Netflix blasting in the background. I mean actually being alone with your own thoughts, feelings, worries, and dreams. Many of us are so afraid of that feeling that we can't even handle 5 to 10 minutes of silence. We turn on the TV, just for some noise, scroll social media to fill the emptiness, text someone, anyone, just to feel like we still exist in someone else's mind. But staying home, in the sense we're talking about here, is actually an amazing asterisk training room asterisk for a very rare skill. Right finger being alone and still feeling enough, without needing anyone's attention or approval. I want you to imagine this. It's a weekend evening. Instead of rushing out, instead of trying to squeeze yourself into some random plan, you decide to stay home. Not because no one invited you, but because asterisk you chose it. You turn down the noise. You put your phone aside, not completely, but at least you don't let it control your entire evening. You make yourself a cup of tea, or a coffee. You sit down, and you simply stay there, with yourself. In that moment, one of two things will happen. Either you feel really uncomfortable and your mind starts firing off all kinds of thoughts. What is everyone else doing right now? Am I being left behind? Why am I sitting here on a Saturday night? Or, slowly, you start to notice something strange. A quiet space, gentle, but deep. That's the very first moment you touch the feeling of asterisk being enough. Just by yourself. In a psychology study I once read, one patient said something brutally honest. Greater than, I'm not afraid of being alone. Greater than I'm afraid of feeling like I don't matter to anyone. And that's the trap so many of us fall into. We're not really running away from silence. We're running away from the feeling that asterisk no one cares. Social media, unnecessary hangouts, gatherings that leave you exhausted when you get home. Sometimes all of that is just our way of proving to ourselves, I'm still in the game. People still remember me. But you know what? If your self-worth only stands firm when someone is looking at you, it's incredibly fragile. Just one day with fewer messages, fewer notifications, fewer calls, and your emotions crash immediately. Staying home, choosing asterisk to be on your own, is when you start building a different foundation. Greater than, I have value, even when no one sees me. From a scientific point of view, our brains are addicted to social dopamine. Every time there's a notification, A message, a like, a comment, your brain gets a hit of pleasant stimulation. Over time, we get used to that feeling, and we start to fear any quiet moment where no one calls. No one texts, no one reacts. When you stay home and dial down that stimulation, you're basically doing something like quitting sugar or quitting cigarettes, but on a mental level. Right finger, you're training your brain to get used to asterisk not asterisk being constantly petted by other people's attention. At first, you'll feel restless, empty, a bit off. But if you stick with it, you'll notice something really interesting. Your emotions become more stable. You're not overly happy just because someone compliments you. And you're not overly crushed just because no one replies. You start to stand more firmly from the inside. A friend of mine once said, "Greater than before, if I didn't go out with someone at night, I felt like a failure, like my life was boring. Greater than after a while, I decided to try staying home, just to read, write a bit, listen to music I like. Greater than it felt empty at first, but later I realized, greater than turns out I can make myself happy." That sentence sounds simple, but it's a real turning point. Once you realize you can make yourself happy, you no longer beg for anyone's attention. You no longer force yourself to impress people. You no longer drag yourself into hangouts that leave you drained afterwards. You start to choose where to go, with whom, and when, instead of going just because you're scared of being home alone. And from that point on, staying home stops being lonely and becomes a safe space, a kind of asterisk base camp asterisk where you return to recharge. Let me ask you something honestly. Right finger, when was the last time you sat with yourself, no scrolling, no rushing, just sat and felt yourself being alive? If it's been a long time, maybe it's time to try staying home in a new way. Not locking yourself in four walls and drowning in Netflix, but using that space to build a simple habit. Sitting quietly for 10 to 15 minutes a day. Writing down how you feel. Asking yourself, how do I really feel today? It sounds small, but that's how you rebuild the connection with yourself. You no longer have to wait for someone else to ask, "Are you okay?" You learn to do that for yourself first. In Stoic philosophy, there's a beautiful idea. Greater than a free person is someone who is asterisk not dependent asterisk on things outside their control. Attention, praise, validation from others, those are all outside your control. You can't force someone to love you, remember you, or pay attention to you. But there is one thing you can do. Right finger, build an inner life so rich that even on days when no one texts you, no one tags you, no one invites you out, you still feel your life has meaning. Staying home, practicing being with yourself, is that training. You learn to enjoy a book, a song, a quiet evening, a cup of tea you made for yourself, without needing to show it to anyone. You learn to feel life in the smallest things. And slowly, you realize you no longer need to stand in the middle of a crowd to prove that you exist. In the end, I'm not saying you should cut off all relationships or become a hermit. No. What I want to share is simply this. If you can't be at peace with yourself, you will always be dragged around by everything outside you. Staying home, in the way we're talking about, is a small but powerful practice. You give yourself the chance to feel enough, even when you're alone. You give your heart the chance to stop chasing shallow touches. You give your mind the chance to understand. Greater than, even when the world is temporarily silent towards me. Greater than, I am still me, and that is enough. If you can tonight, try turning down the noise, staying home, and giving yourself 15 to 20 minutes that belong only to you. Who knows? That might be the beginning of a calmer, stronger, and much freer version of yourself. And when you start feeling more at ease with being alone, no longer desperately chasing outside attention, something natural happens. You begin to hear more clearly the tired spots, the old wounds inside you. And that is when healing finally has a chance to enter. Right finger. So, let's move on to idea number 2. How the quiet air at home can help heal your mind. Try to think back to a recent time when you were truly exhausted. Maybe it was after a wave of brutal deadlines, after a breakup, or after a stretch of days where you had to keep pretending you were fine in front of everyone. Have you ever noticed that, when all of that finally settles down a bit, what you need most is not a loud trip, not more social plans, but a really quiet place where you can breathe again, where your heart can, well, simply slow down for a moment? The quiet air at home, if you know how to use it, is actually a form of emotional medicine that most people overlook. I want you to imagine a day like this. You've just gone through an insanely stressful week. Work, family, money, invisible pressure, all mixing together into this heavy knot sitting in your chest. Normally, you'd try to escape that feeling by going out, seeing people, drinking, wandering around somewhere until you're tired enough to crash. But this time, you choose something different. You go home, close the door, and give yourself permission not to be strong for a few hours. The air in your home might not be anything special. A small room, a chair, some warm yellow light, a thin blanket. But right there, in that very ordinary stillness, your mind finally has a little space to loosen up. You don't have to perform anymore. You don't have to smile politely. You don't have to keep pretending that you're okay. You only need to admit, yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, that really hurt. Yeah, I'm burned out. Believe me, just having the courage to say those things out loud to yourself, in a safe space like your own home, is already the first step of healing. One patient in a therapy story I once read said something incredibly honest. Greater than, I didn't really start to heal until I let myself sit on the couch, stare out the window and cry. Greater than no doing anything. Greater than no trying to be strong. Greater than no trying to find solutions. Greater than just letting everything I'd been holding down finally come up. Sounds weak? In reality, that's a very subtle kind of courage, the courage to face what's inside. Out there, we're often pushed to get over it quickly, move on, don't think about it anymore. But inside, emotions don't disappear just because we ignore them. They simply sink deeper, and eventually they'll come back on a day you least expect. The quiet air at home gives you a natural therapy room. You don't have to pay by the hour. You don't have to dress up. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone. All you need is you, and your truth. From a scientific point of view, our bodies can't stay in fight mode all the time. Stress, pressure, deadlines, drama, all of that triggers the sympathetic nervous system, the one whose job is run, keep going, push harder, hold it together, endure. But if we never give the body a chance to pay itself back, never give it quiet time, relaxation, slowness, then the opposite system, the parasympathetic nervous system, never gets to do its job. Recovery, recalibration, repair. That's why sometimes all you need is one quiet evening at home, turning down the noise, taking a warm shower, lying still, breathing deeply, and the next morning your head already feels a bit lighter. Not because your problems vanished, but because your nervous system finally got to exhale. The quiet air at home, if you allow it to, is the switch that flips you from fight mode, tension, hyper-alertness, into recovery and healing mode. Have you ever felt this before? On the outside, you're still smiling, still working, still fine. But every time you come home, close the door, it's like your heart just drops. There are nights when you sit down on your bed and want to cry without even knowing exactly why. The truth is, you don't need some dramatic reason to be tired. Just trying to play the role of the perfect version of yourself out there is already enough to drain your soul. At home, in the quiet, all those masks can finally come off. And only then can you see clearly where you've been scraped raw, where you've been torn. I know it's not easy to face that. A lot of people are afraid of silence because silence exposes everything they've been trying to hide. But that's exactly where healing begins. A wound can't heal if it's being rubbed nonstop. Your inner world is the same, if every single day you shove it into packed schedules, forced smiles, and constant holding it together. It never gets a chance to rest. Try looking at your home with different eyes. Not just as a place to eat, sleep, shut down and power back on, but as an emotional space where you can sit down and write out what's been hurting you. Look at which relationships make you sigh more than they make you smile. Admit the things you've been trying hard to avoid. You can put on some soft music, sit on the couch, stare at the ceiling, and ask yourself, what exactly is hurting me the most? What have I been enduring for way too long without giving myself permission to say it out loud? In the noisy outside world, there's rarely room for questions like that. But at home, in the quiet, the answers slowly start to surface. Sometimes they come slowly, sometimes blurry, but just enough for you to start naming them. Healing your mind isn't some fancy detox retreat at a resort. Sometimes, it's just a few evenings in a row where you finally let yourself stop pretending. You don't force yourself to be cheerful. You don't force yourself to update your story so people can see you're doing great. You don't force yourself to act like you're over it. You simply choose to be honest with yourself. At home, you can cry if you need to. You can lie down, exhausted, without needing to keep up an image. You can whisper to yourself, "This really hurts." And those moments that look like weakness from the outside are actually very powerful steps on the healing journey. Because you're no longer denying your own feelings. I don't know exactly where you're at in your journey. Maybe you've just been through a divorce, a financial collapse, insane pressure at work, or a loss nobody fully understands. But I do know this. If you keep running, keep stuffing your schedule, keep pouring another drink to forget, keep pretending you're fine, inside, you'll only get more and more exhausted. Give yourself a small chance. One evening where you dim the lights, turn down the noise, sit quietly at home, and let your mind breathe. The quiet air at home is not some scary emptiness. If you know how to use it, it becomes a very warm pair of arms. Holding your broken pieces. Letting you slow down. Letting you admit that you've tried so hard. And little by little, through those evenings that seem totally ordinary, you'll start to notice. You don't panic as easily as before. Your heart doesn't race as hard when you think about the past. Painful memories don't feel as sharp as they used to. The quiet air at home won't solve all your problems. But it gives your heart the space it needs to start healing itself. And sometimes, that is exactly the most important thing you need. When your mind isn't screaming as loudly anymore. When the wounds inside start to soften. Another need naturally appears. Not just to survive, but to live with more intention. You begin to ask yourself, if I'm going to be home more, how can I use this time to build something real for my future? Right finger, that's when deep work, learning, and skill building show up. And that's exactly what we'll dive into in idea number 3. Now, try looking at your home from a completely different angle. Not just as the place you sleep, eat, or throw yourself onto the couch after a long, exhausting day, but as a forge, a personal dojo where you quietly become sharper day by day. While the world still thinks, they're just at home. When people hear deep work, a lot of them immediately picture pretty coffee shops, fancy work corners, or modern co-working spaces. But in reality, the best environment for deep work might actually be your own home, if you know how to set it up. I want you to imagine this. It's a weekend morning. You don't have to drive anywhere, don't have to rush to a meeting, don't have to deal with traffic jams. You wake up a bit earlier, make a cup of coffee, open the window or pull back the curtain and let the light in. You switch off most notifications on your phone, close useless tabs, and keep only one thing in front of you. One skill you want to learn. One personal project you want to build. One thing that, if you take it seriously for the next 6 to 12 months, could genuinely change your life. That's the beginning of deep work at home. In today's world, most of us are shredded into pieces by fragments of attention. Notifications, emails, social media, group chats, drama, news, Each one takes a few seconds, a few minutes, a few percent of your energy. Deep work is the opposite. It's the state where you do *1 hard, important thing for a long enough stretch of time, without interruption. And you're home. When you close the door and intentionally create quiet is the perfect place for that state to appear. You don't have to worry about anyone watching you. You don't have to keep up appearances. Don't have to look busy. You have full permission to disappear from the world for 60 to 90 minutes. Just to dig into the thing you're trying to master. Think about any skill you've ever admired in someone else. Speaking English fluently. Writing sharply and emotionally. Coding, designing, making content, investing, communicating, selling, building a business. None of those skills were built from half-hearted, rushed, distracted time, half working, half scrolling. They were forged in repeated blocks of focused time that were long enough and deep enough. Your home, if you understand the value of deep work, can become the laboratory of your future. While many people treat being at home as time to binge shows, binge games, or scroll endlessly, you use that same time to learn a new language, build a side project, write your first ebook, design a course, a blog, a YouTube channel, upgrade your financial knowledge or career skills. You don't need 8 to 10 hours. Just 1 to 2 hours of real deep work per day, consistently, for a few months. The results will be completely different. I want you to ask yourself, greater than, if I seriously dedicate 90 minutes a day at home to learning one new skill, and keep that up for 6 months, how would my life change? You might answer, I could apply for a better job. I could earn extra income from a side hustle. I could feel more confident talking to foreigners. I could finally launch that YouTube channel I've been dreaming about. Those changes don't appear in bars, clubs, or loud hangouts. They're usually born at a small desk in your room. On the day you decide to sit down and truly focus. People often say, staying home makes you lazy, makes you procrastinate. That's true, if you let your home become a place where your mind just wanders aimlessly. But that very same home, if you set a few small rituals, can turn into a dojo of discipline Every morning or evening, you sit in that exact spot, open that exact material, and work on that one thing for 60 to 90 minutes. You make a rule, during this time, no social media, no texting, no checking email. You train your brain to understand, when I sit here, this time is for training, not for entertainment. Like a fighter stepping into the ring or an athlete stepping onto the track, just touching that space tells their body, it's time to get serious. You can absolutely create that feeling at home. I once heard someone joke, but it was painfully true. Greater than, if you want to know who's going far, look at what they do when no one's watching. At the office, in front of your boss and coworkers, anyone can act hardworking. But at home, when no one is supervising you, no one grading you, no one praising you, what you choose to do then is what really shapes your future. If you use your time at home to study more, think more, write down ideas, quietly lay bricks for your future, then you are already ahead of many people. Even if, on the surface, nothing seems to have changed yet. On the other hand, if every time you're home you just grab your phone, scroll until you lose track of time, and tell yourself, I'll deal with it tomorrow, then you're silently passing up chances that you never even gave yourself. From a Stoic perspective, a home isn't just a roof. It's a place to train your mind and your character. Out there, you have to react to the world. At home, you can create your own world. A space with more order, fewer distractions, and a better match with the person you want to become. You want to become a writer? Turn a small corner of your home into a writing corner, and commit to sitting there 1 to 2 hours a day. You want to become a content creator? Use your time at home to research, film, edit, and experiment, instead of only consuming other people's content. You want to become healthier and stronger? Set aside a little space in your room as a mini workout area. Push-ups, planks, squats, simple exercises but done consistently. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't have to look like Pinterest. It just needs *U* to show up there every day. In the end, what makes deep work at home so powerful isn't the physical space. It's how you choose to treat your *time. You can keep saying, being at home is boring, and continue repeating the cycle. Scroll. Watch random videos. Complain about being tired. Go to bed late. Wake up already feeling behind. Or, you can slowly redesign each evening, each weekend morning, as a quiet training session. 1 hour today might not create a visible difference. But 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, people will call you lucky, without realizing that luck was cooked from hours of silent deep work at home. With no shares, no applause, no cheering. If you're watching this right now, I want you to try one small thing. Pick *1 skill. Pick *1 fixed time block in your day. And start treating your home like a dojo where you seriously train a better version of yourself. You don't have to leave your house to change your life. Many turning points actually began in a quiet room, at a simple desk, with one decision. Greater than, today, I'm really going to start. You turn your home into your personal training forge. Using your time at home to study, focus, and upgrade yourself. You'll quickly realize something. Not everything out there is worth chasing. Drama, gossip, unreasonable expectations, all those social noises start to show their true colors. And that's exactly when we step into idea number 4. Staying home is a way to step out of the noise and hear your own inner voice again. If you pay attention, there's one thing in modern life that almost never turns off: social noise. And it's not just physical sound, cars, people, music. It's the noise of opinions, judgments, drama, comparison, expectation. You open your phone. People show off success, show off their body, their relationship, their trips. You go to work. Coworkers talk about who quit, who got promoted, who is being trashed behind their back. You go home. Family asks, "So when will you? Why are your friends already like this and you're still?" Slowly, you get pulled into an invisible, noisy marketplace. And the most dangerous part is, when you've been in that marketplace for too long, you can no longer hear your own voice. When you're at home, if you know how to switch off some of those lines connecting you to the outside world, you'll notice something strange. For the first time in a long time, inside you, there is space for a whisper. I want you to imagine an evening like this. You turn off the TV. You put your phone aside and switch it to silent mode. No scrolling news feeds, no group chats, no reading comments, no checking what the latest drama is. You just sit on a chair, or lie on your bed, in a space that's quiet enough. At first, your mind will probably crave fuel. It wants to turn something on so it doesn't feel so empty. It wants to just check quickly to feel at ease. But if you're patient for a bit, you'll start to notice questions rising up that you haven't dared to face for a long time. What am I really tired of? Is what I'm chasing actually what I want, or what others have put on me? If tomorrow no one expected anything from me, how would I choose to live? That's the moment your inner voice starts to speak. Someone once described his experience like this. Greater than, I realized that 70% of what I do every day doesn't come from what I truly want. Greater than, but from fear of falling behind, fear of being judged. Greater than, I went to coffees I didn't enjoy, joined conversations I didn't care about. Greater than, just because everyone was there. Greater than, when I started staying home more, cutting off some loud relationships. Greater than, I finally heard what I actually wanted. That story might sound a bit like you. Somewhere, we get swept up in gossip, comparison, proving ourselves. We do things that aren't exactly wrong, but also aren't truly ours. Just because, if I don't do it, I'll feel left out. At home, you don't have to play any role. You don't have to be the good child in front of relatives, the holding it together employee in front of your boss, or the always funny friend who's ready to listen to everyone's drama. You're just you, with all your confusion, fragility, strength, and exhaustion. And it's exactly in that quiet space that the things which really matter can rise to the surface. Social noise doesn't only come from words people say out loud. It also comes from invisible expectations. At this age, you should already have. As a man, you're supposed to. As a woman, you should. A successful person has to look like this, live like that. If you hear those shoulds long enough, they become a frame that tightens around your life. You start living as if you're taking an exam, always trying to hit the right answer, according to someone else. At home, in your own space, you finally get the chance to ask, who is actually living this life? Them, or me? When you're not surrounded by so many eyes, it becomes easier to be honest with yourself. There are goals you realize you never truly wanted. They were programmed into you by society. There are paths that, once you step away from the noise, you clearly see, this isn't for me. But you need quiet to see that. When you're drowning in oceans of information and expectation, it's almost impossible to tell which voice is yours and which is someone else's echo. Psychological point of view, our brains tend to blend into the crowd. If everyone around you is chasing something, you'll easily believe you should chase it too. If every day you hear drama, gossip, judgment, you slowly start to see that way of talking as normal. At home, when you reduce your daily dose of social input, you get a chance to reset your inner sensors. You notice that you feel uncomfortable gossiping about someone who isn't there. You notice that you feel drained from constantly proving you're okay, capable, interesting. You notice there are places you go just because you're afraid of being left behind, not because you actually enjoy being there. And you start daring to say no. Not every noisy situation needs your presence. Not every conversation deserves to be carried home in your head. Not every expectation stuck onto you is yours to carry. I want you to try a small experiment. For the next week, each day, spend at least 15 to 20 minutes at home in a quiet space and ask yourself one question. Greater than, what did I do today? Because others expected it. Greater than not because I truly wanted to? Don't rush the answer. Just let the question hang in your mind and write down whatever comes up. You might be surprised to see. There are relationships you maintain simply because you feel awkward cutting them off. There are habits you keep just because everyone does it. There are goals you're holding onto because you're afraid of disappointing your parents or your friends. Realizing this doesn't mean you have to drop everything and walk away from everyone. But at the very least, you've started to tell apart which voice is yours and which belongs to others. That's already a big step. In Stoic philosophy, there's a recurring idea. Greater than, don't let the crowd define your worth. At home, away from the crowd's eyes and noise, you have the chance to ask, if no one claps for me, would I still choose this path? If I couldn't post this online, would I still want to do it? If your answer is yes, that's a sign you're following your own voice. If your answer is no, maybe you've been living by someone else's script. Staying home doesn't turn you into a disconnected person or some kind of weirdo. On the contrary, it gives you enough distance to step back into the world with a clearer sense of self. You know who you are. You know what matters. You know which voices to listen to, and which to let go. Ultimately, staying home, in a deeper sense, is the art of unplugging from collective noise so you can reconnect to your own internal power source. It won't always feel comfortable. There will be quiet moments that expose a lot of things you've been avoiding: fear, shame, insecurity. But if you're patient enough, underneath all that noise, you'll begin to hear something very precious. A soft but steady voice inside you saying, this is what we truly value. This is how we want to live. even if the world is chasing something else. This is our own rhythm, it doesn't need to match anyone else's. When you can live by that rhythm, you're no longer easily dragged into drama, gossip, or unreasonable expectations. You can still stand in the middle of society, but not be swallowed by it. You can still hear what others say, but you don't let them speak over the voice in your own heart. And that journey, very often, begins with a decision that seems small. Greater than, today, I'm going to stay home. Greater than turn down the noise. Greater than and listen to myself again. When the outside noise gets quieter and your inner voice gets clearer, you'll start to see. There are so many things you've been doing just to soothe yourself quickly, to get rid of discomfort right away. At that point, the story is no longer just about staying in or going out, but about this deeper question. Right finger, can I tolerate the feeling of waiting, lacking, or emptiness, without rushing to grab something to fill it? And that, exactly, is the essence of idea number 5. Learning to delay instant gratification. If you notice, a lot of what exhausts us today comes from one tiny habit almost everyone has. Right finger the moment we want something. We feel we must have it right now. Tired? Open an app and order food. Sad? Scroll the newsfeed looking for something funny. Lonely? Fire off a quick message to someone, just to feel like, at least someone still replies to me. Bored? Open Shopee, Amazon, scroll around for a while so it doesn't feel so empty. Our brain has gotten way too used to this pattern. The moment we feel even a little uncomfortable, there has to be something sweet to soothe us. And because of that, the moment life doesn't go our way, a late paycheck, a ruined plan, a failure, rejection, we crash fast. Staying home, if you understand it the right way, can become an amazing training room for a very rare and powerful skill. Right finger delaying instant gratification. Not everything you want has to happen right now. You don't need to go out, meet up, or shop non-stop just to feel okay. It sounds simple, but this is actually the foundation of grit, mental endurance, and a very quiet but solid kind of maturity. I want you to imagine this. It's Friday night, you've just finished a pretty intense week. Your very first thought is, I have to go somewhere or I'll lose it. Invites, friends' stories, all the bars and places out there. They all seem to be calling your name. But this time, you do something different. You decide to stay home. Not because no one invited you. Not because you're lame or friendless. But because you want to test yourself. Right finger, can I handle the feeling of not doing something instantly pleasurable? You pour yourself a drink, sit down, and you can literally feel that restlessness in your body. You want to grab your phone. You want to order food. You want to scroll and see what everyone else is doing. That exact, itchy moment is the workout. If you can get through it, even just 10 to 15 minutes, you'll feel a different kind of wave come in. Your mind calms down. Your heartbeat slows. Everything isn't as unbearable as you thought. You've just won a tiny battle with yourself. But those tiny battles, repeated over and over, create a very different kind of person. There's a classic experiment called the asterisk marshmallow test asterisk. A kid is given one marshmallow and told, greater than, if you wait 15 minutes without eating it, you'll get a second one. The kids who could wait, who could delay gratification, turned out, years later, to have better self-control, more success, and more resilience under pressure. Sounds like kid stuff, right? But as adults, every time we can't even sit still at home for 30 minutes. Can't handle a weekend without going somewhere. Can't stand the feeling of emptiness. We're basically doing the same thing. Right finger eating the marshmallow right away. Have you ever asked yourself, how many bad money decisions started from, screw it, I'll just buy it now? How many toxic relationships dragged on because you were afraid of feeling lonely if you left? How many long-term plans got abandoned because you chose the quick thrill in front of you? Delaying instant gratification isn't just about discipline. It's about protecting your own future. At home, You have endless opportunities to practice this in very simple, everyday ways. You want to grab your phone the second you wake up? Try slowing down just 10 to 15 minutes, drink water, stretch, breathe, and then pick it up. You really want to buy something you just saw online? Try putting it in your cart for 24 hours. If the next day you still genuinely need it, buy it. If you completely forget about it, it was just a passing urge, not worth paying for. You're feeling sad and your first instinct is to order junk food to feel better. Try cooking something simple for yourself and notice how you feel after you eat. Little things like that, repeated daily, are how you train your brain to accept. Greater than, I don't need to be comforted immediately. Greater than, I can handle this. And each time you handle it, your mental toughness grows a bit more. Biologically, the brain loves fast rewards. Sugar, short videos, notifications, likes, comments, new purchases. Every hit gives you a quick spike of dopamine, that feel-good chemical. But the more you play that game, the more your dopamine baseline is pushed up. Everyday joys, a quiet evening, a good book, a simple home-cooked meal, start to feel flat. You need stronger, louder, faster hits of stimulation just to feel good enough. Delaying instant gratification is how you reset your reward system. You're not cutting joy out of your life. You're just not chasing it blindly anymore. You're teaching yourself. A night without going out is still okay. A day without buying anything new is survivable. A week without drama does not kill you. When that happens, simple joys start to come back. A song, a cup of coffee, an hour reading a book, a focused work session. You start to feel right. That's enough. Have you noticed that people who are steady, calm, and hard to provoke usually have one thing in common? They don't react instantly to every stimulus. They don't go out just because someone calls. They don't blow up just because someone pokes them. They don't jump in just because something looks fun in the moment. They have a buffer between emotion and action. That buffer is exactly where endurance and resilience are built. At home, when you train yourself to create those buffers, wait 5 more minutes, think a bit longer, take a few deep breaths before acting. You're building a crucial layer of armor. Armor against impulsive decisions. Armor against the habit of trading away your future just for a few minutes of relief. I'm not saying you should turn your life into some harsh boot camp with no fun and no treats. Not at all. The difference is this. You choose when and how you enjoy yourself. Instead of letting every craving drag you around, you can still go out, shop, indulge, have fun. You just don't use those things to cover every uncomfortable feeling, every empty moment, every fear. You know you can stay home and do nothing spectacular and still be okay. You know you can feel sad, bored, or empty without immediately tapping into an app. When you have that foundation, you become harder to manipulate, harder to bait, harder to pull into dumb decisions just to satisfy a want it now impulse. In the end, delaying instant gratification isn't about taking joy away from you. It's about giving you back the power to decide when and how you get that joy. At home, every time you can look at yourself and say, greater than, yeah, I want relief right now. Greater than, but it's okay. I can wait a bit. That's one more time you step out of being dragged by your cravings. One more brick laid for a calmer, stronger, more mature future self. And if you're asking, how do I get tougher, more resilient, less likely to fall apart when things get hard? The answer often isn't in some fancy philosophy. It starts in tiny, ordinary moments. Tonight, staying in. Feeling low, but not rushing to order food. Feeling bored, but not scrolling for 3 straight hours. Feeling lonely, but choosing to sit with yourself for 10 more minutes. Before calling someone just to fill the silence. Those moments look small, but stacked over time, they create a completely different person. Calmer, tougher, and no longer spun around like a pinwheel by a few minutes of instant pleasure. dash dash dash. And when you stop constantly chasing, I need to feel good right now, you suddenly end up with a lot more empty space in your day. Evenings where you don't have to drag people out for mindless food and drinks. Free hours that don't have to be filled with endless scrolling. And then the question becomes greater than, so, what am I going to fill this space with? Greater than that's actually asterisk good asterisk for me. Right finger, that's when habits like reading, meditation, journaling, and light exercise finally have room to take root, and that's exactly what we'll dive into in idea number 6. There's a pretty ironic thing about life. The things that are really good for us in the long run, reading, meditating, journaling, light exercise, are usually the easiest to drop. Not because they're impossibly hard, but because they're quiet. They don't give you that instant rush the way going out, eating out, shopping, or hanging out with friends does. They're subtle, repetitive, steady, and because of that, they get pushed to the bottom of the priority list by a busy life. Home, if you know how to use it, becomes the ideal place for those habits to take root, grow, and actually last. Dash dash dash. Try looking at a standard day when you're constantly out. Morning, rushing to work. Lunch, quick meal, squeezing in some phone time. Afternoon, traffic, drained. Evening, maybe more social plans, meetups, or you're simply so wiped out you just want to lie down and watch something to get through the day. In that whole chain, it's really hard to fit in 20 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of meditation, or a few stretching exercises. Not because you're inherently lazy, but because your rhythm is being dragged around, you're reacting instead of choosing. When you're home more intentionally, not hiding from life, you get the chance to do something really important. Right finger, redesign your daily rhythm. I want you to picture a morning at home. You don't have to rush out the door right away. You wake up 15 to 20 minutes earlier. Instead of grabbing your phone, you pour yourself a glass of water. Sit in a specific spot, the sofa, your desk, by the window, and open a book. Just 10 to 15 pages. You don't have to finish a whole chapter. You don't have to grind for 2 hours. But if you do that every morning for a month, you'll cover more ground than many people who never find time all year. Reading doesn't need a fancy space. It just needs a quiet corner, a tiny habit, and one decision. Greater than, every day I'll read a little. Greater than, no matter how little. Home gives you that. A fixed corner, a fixed time, a stable rhythm. Something a constantly on-the-go life rarely gives you. Meditation is the same. A lot of people have heard of it, know it's good, but still say, I don't have time. My mind is too messy. The second I sit down I think about everything. But meditation isn't sitting there until your mind stops thinking. Meditation is seeing what you're thinking, without being completely swept away by it. At home, you can start really small. 5 minutes every morning or before bed. Sit up straight on a chair or on your bed. Close your eyes, or keep them open and gently looking down. Simply notice your breath going in and out, in and out. Your mind is still going all over the place? Totally normal. Your job isn't to kick out every thought. It's just to notice. Greater than, oh, I'm thinking about what happened yesterday again. Greater than, oh, I'm already worrying about tomorrow. Then gently come back to your breath. Those little, coming back, moments, repeated over and over, are like reps for your attention muscle. They slowly make your mind stronger and steadier. At home, no one's watching you, no one's judging. Why are they sitting like that? So you're free to practice. Badly is fine. Distracted is fine, as long as you keep showing up. Journaling is another incredibly powerful habit most people skip. Not the teen diary type where you list what you ate and who you met, but a journal more like, how did I actually feel today? What hurt me today? And what am I grateful for? What did I learn from what happened today? Every night at home, before you sleep, you can spend 10 to 15 minutes just writing. It doesn't have to be good. No one else has to read it. But through each line, you're doing something crucial. Right finger, you're digesting your emotions. Instead of carrying everything into bed, letting it haunt your dreams or keep you tossing and turning, you lay it down on the page. In a noisy cafe, surrounded by people, it's hard to do this deeply. But at home, in your own space, you can be completely honest. Greater than, who am I jealous of right now? Greater than, what am I afraid of? Greater than, what am I hoping for that I haven't dared to say out loud? One small notebook, one pen, one corner of your desk, and a much clearer inner life. Sometimes, that alone is what saves you from that vague feeling of being lost without knowing why. And of course, we can't forget light exercise. A lot of people hear work out and think immediately of gyms, heavy weights, full training programs. All of that is great, if you can stick with it. But for many people, that very all-out image becomes a barrier. I'll wait until I have time to commit. I'll start after I sign up at the gym. Meanwhile, at home, you can easily start with the simplest things. 10 minutes of stretching in the morning. A few sets of plank, squats, push-ups. Taking the stairs, standing up and sitting down, rotating your joints. No fancy equipment. No special outfit. Just a mat and a little bit of floor. What matters isn't how advanced the workout is, but that your body gets a daily reminder. Greater than, hey, I'm still being cared for. Back pain, stiff shoulders, heavy head. Often these aren't just age. They come from going way too long without intentional movement. At home, you control your schedule. No weather issues, no feeling self-conscious, no commute. It's the perfect environment to build light but consistent movement habits. The common thread between all these habits, reading, meditation, journaling, light exercise, is this. Right finger, they depend on repetition, not fireworks. You can't make up for a month of no reading with one 10-hour binge. You can't meditate in bulk for the whole week. No one gets fit from one insane workout followed by 3 weeks of nothing. That's why a stable environment and predictable rhythm are golden conditions for these habits. And your home, if you take the time to arrange it, can provide exactly that. The same corner, at the same time, for the same activity. Repeated every day, even if it's only 10 to 20 minutes. Over time, you don't have to force yourself anymore. Your body and brain will already know. Greater than, at this time, I sit down to read. Greater than, at night, I open my journal and write a few lines. Greater than, in the morning, I stretch before I even touch my phone. That's when the habit becomes part of who you are. Not just another task on a to-do list. I'm not saying you have to lock yourself at home and abandon your social life. Not at all. What I'm emphasizing is this. If you're constantly out, constantly stacking plans, constantly chasing the next meetup, these healthy habits have almost no room to survive. At home, with a bit of intentionality, you can set golden hours during the day. No screens. Just books, journal, body, mind. Design small, meaningful corners, a reading corner, a meditation corner, a movement corner. Create very simple but powerful rituals. Make tea before you write. Turn on a familiar playlist before you meditate. Roll out the mat and your body automatically wants to move. These small changes, added up over months and years, create a huge difference between two types of people. One who always feels life is heavy, head is foggy, heart is tangled, body is deteriorating and doesn't know why. And one who, even while facing pressure like everyone else, has regular breathing space and daily, deep self-care moments. If you're asking, greater than, how do I live more balanced, calmer, less overwhelmed? One of the simplest answers is, right finger, start using your time at home to replant small, healthy habits that repeat every day. You might not see a difference in a week, but after a month, 3 months, 6 months, you'll notice. You think more clearly. You sleep more deeply. You're less irritable for no reason. And most importantly, you feel like you're living asterisk on purpose, not just existing to get through the days. When healthy habits start showing up regularly in your life at home, you become more sensitive to everything that drains you. Not just work, but people. You start to notice. Greater than, why is it that every time I see this person, my mood crashes? Greater than, why do I feel so small after talking to that person? Right finger, and that's when we move into idea number 7. Learning to recognize who drains your energy and who refuels it, so you can keep your distance from toxic relationships. There's a truth we realize more and more as we grow up. Not everyone who walks into our life brings light with them. Some people arrive and make us feel lighter, more ourselves, more willing to try. But there are also people who, every time we see them, it feels like half the battery of our life just got drained. The problem is, when we're constantly in the noise, constant plans, constant messages, constant social contact, it's very hard to see that clearly. Only when you pull back a little, stay home more, reduce the social friction a bit, do you start to see. Right finger, who is actually good for me, and who is just draining me. I want you to remember the last time you met someone and went home feeling heavy. Not because the drive was long, not because the place was loud, but because your spirit got pulled down. Maybe it was a friend who's a professional complainer. Every time you meet, it's negative stories, trash talking someone, criticizing someone else, always playing the victim. Maybe it was a relative who constantly compares you. Look at so-and-so's kid, your friend already, at your age, people have already. Or maybe it was someone in your group of friends who, whenever you talk about your dreams or goals, just laughs, mocks, and makes you feel naive or unrealistic. In the middle of the conversation, you might just laugh it off, keep talking, and not think too much. But that night, when you're home, door closed, suddenly you feel, why did my mood crash so hard? Why did I feel so excited earlier, and now I feel like I'm nothing? Those quiet moments at home, sitting by yourself, are when you finally hear your real feelings about each relationship. When you pull back for a while, not cutting people off completely, just less something interesting happens. There are people that, when you see them less, you feel lighter. You don't have to explain yourself, don't have to be on guard, don't have to keep wondering if they're judging you. And there are people who, even if you don't see them often, every time you text, call, or accidentally meet again, you feel warm. You don't feel drained after talking. You feel calm. You don't have to force yourself to be cheerful, yet still feel accepted. You can sit in silence for a few seconds without it feeling awkward. Staying home, pulling back, is like zooming the camera out and looking at your social life from above. You see your red zones more clearly, the places where your energy gets sucked away. You see your green zones more clearly, the places where you're actually recharged. Before, when you were constantly spinning in the wheel, you might just think, maybe I'm just tired. Maybe work is too stressful. But once you step back a bit, you realize, no, there are certain people that I always feel drained after seeing. And there are others that I don't see often, but I always feel better after being with them. I once heard a quote that sounds extreme, but is worth thinking about. Greater than, if after seeing someone you always feel smaller, less valuable, less confident. Greater than that's not someone you should walk a long road with. It sounds harsh, but try holding it up against your own relationships. Is there anyone that, after every interaction, leaves you feeling worse about yourself? Not smart enough. Not attractive enough. Not successful enough. Not interesting enough. Some people don't do anything obviously cruel to you. They just consistently belittle you. Every time you share what you want, they splash cold water on it. Every time you try to lift your head up, they pull you back down. In a group, you may not notice it clearly. But at home, when you're alone, you hear that whisper inside. Why is it that being around them always makes me feel like I'm nothing? If you pull back for a while, less meeting, less texting, less letting them step into your mental space, you'll see a very clear difference. Your mind is less noisy. Your head is less stuck in comparison. Your energy isn't being dragged to negativity as much. From a psychological perspective, we all have an energy tank each day. When we wake up, that tank has a certain amount in it. Every task you do, every conversation, every drama you get pulled into, is another scoop out of that tank. If you spend time around people who judge, criticize, complain, or endlessly demand, it only takes a few hours before your tank is almost empty. On the other hand, when you're with people who know how to listen, respect, and share honestly without judging, you feel like your tank is being topped up, not just drained. At home, with less contact, it becomes easier to see who is using you as their emotional trash can, who only comes to you when they need to vent, to take, but rarely gives anything healthy back, who respects your boundaries, and who constantly crosses them. These things are hard to see when you're always in automatic mode. Replying to everyone immediately, saying yes to every invitation, listening to everything people unload on you. But when you pull back, you finally have space to notice. So what does it mean to keep your distance from toxic relationships? It doesn't always mean cutting them off, blocking them, disappearing. Sometimes, it's simply sharing less of your private life with people who weaponize it against you later. Not replying instantly to messages that are only about complaining, blaming, and dragging you down. Saying no to plans you already know will leave you with a headache and a heavy heart afterwards. You start to understand. Right finger, your time and energy are limited. If you let toxic relationships take all of it, healthy relationships have no room to grow. When you pull back, you're not just withdrawing from people who drain you. You're also opening up space for kind, positive, genuine people to enter your life. You might say, but if I pull back, I'm afraid people will think I'm arrogant or cold. This is where you have to learn one of adulthood's hardest lessons. Between others being happy because you're always available to them, and you slowly burning out, you have to choose. You can't be everyone's good person and still keep your inner peace without ever setting boundaries. At home, in the quiet, you can ask yourself some very honest questions. Does this relationship help me grow, or just drag me down? Can I be my real self around this person? Do I have to fake it, perform, or always act upbeat just to be accepted? If your honest answers keep coming back as, this isn't okay, then keeping your distance is not selfish. Right finger, it's self-protection. From a Stoic perspective, your life is the only thing that truly belongs to you. Your mind, your time, your energy, those are your inner assets. Everything else, reputation, other people's opinions, praise or criticism, is outside your control. When you pull back and stay home more, you get to see clearly how you're spending those inner assets. On people who value them, or on people who only exploit them. On conversations that nourish you, or on ones that just leave you more exhausted. And when you start choosing more carefully, you'll feel a strange sense of peace. Fewer people, but better quality. Less noise, but more depth. Fewer, I have friends everywhere, but the ones who remain are truly your friends. If you're feeling burnt out from relationships, try giving yourself a season of pulling back. No big announcements. No drama. Just staying home more. Quietly observing how you feel after each interaction. Listening to what your heart is trying to tell you about each person in your life. From there, gently adjust. Who should be closer? Who should be further away? Who should stay at a polite, surface level? That's not cold-hearted. That's maturity in how you love yourself. And when you know how to protect your energy, you finally have the strength to love the right people. More deeply, more beautifully, and more sustainably. Once you dare to step back from the relationships that drain you, your calendar suddenly becomes lighter. No more endless, obligatory hangouts. No more forcing yourself to go just to keep the peace. And when your schedule is less crowded, your energy isn't constantly being emptied by meaningless things. That leads to a very important shift. Right finger, you start having fuel to spend on the goals that actually matter. And that's exactly where idea number 8 begins. How staying home helps you save time and energy for what truly matters. Try looking back at your past week and ask yourself a very simple question. How much time and energy did you spend on things that, honestly, weren't that important? Coffees you didn't really want to go to, but you were afraid to say no, so you went anyway. Meetups where the main topic was complaining, gossiping, talking about who did what to whom. Times you said, yeah, I'll drop by. Not because you were excited, but because you were afraid people would think you were distant, while inside you were completely exhausted. We rarely realize this. Every time we say yes to a meaningless hangout, we're taking a little bit of fuel out of our own energy tank. In the morning, the tank is full. By late afternoon, after a few pointless conversations, the tank is only half. By the time you get home in the evening, the time you could have used for something truly important, studying, reading, building a personal project, taking care of yourself, you're on empty. Staying home, if you use it well, is how you keep that fuel for things that genuinely deserve it. I want you to picture 2 scenarios. Scenario 1. You just finished work. Someone asks you out for coffee, just to chat. Another person messages, come sit here so you're not bored. A group chat pops up, let's go eat. It's been so long. You really don't have much energy left. But you say yes anyway. You go. You make small talk. You repeat the same old stories. You hear a few more stories that you'll completely forget once you get home. By the time you leave, it's late. Your body is tired, your head feels heavy. And when you finally get home, all you want to do is collapse into bed. Scenario 2. Same evening. Same tired body. But this time, you choose to go home. You eat something simple, take a shower, sit down at your desk. You give yourself 60 to 90 minutes for a goal you've been carrying in your heart for a long time. Learning a skill that will help your career. Writing a few pages for your book, your blog, or your video script. Laying out a financial plan. Organizing a personal project. That night, you don't have loud laughter. You don't have a story to post. Nobody tags you in a group photo. But you have something else. That quiet feeling of I just moved a little closer to the life I actually want. The difference between those 2 scenarios is simple. In one, you burn your fuel on things that just fill the empty space. In the other, you save it for things that build your future. We love to say, I don't have time. But often the truth is, we do have time. We're just leaking it into places that don't deserve it. A 2 to 3 hour hangout isn't just 2 to 3 hours. It's also the energy you spend getting ready, the commute there and back, and the emotional after effect. Some hangouts are short in clock time, but long in emotional impact. You hear one critical comment, one comparison, one story that makes you angry or bitter, and you carry that feeling around for the rest of the night. When you choose to stay home and cut down on filler plans, you're sending yourself a very clear message. Greater than, my time and energy are valuable. Greater than, I'm not going to spend them carelessly anymore. You're not becoming cold. You're simply starting to sort. Which meetups actually deepen my connections? Which ones nourish me? Which ones are just to avoid feeling empty? Once you see that clearly, you'll start saying no to a lot of invitations you used to automatically say yes to. Think of your daily energy like a gas tank. You need that fuel for your main work, the thing that pays your bills, relationships that truly matter, family, close friends, a few people who really see you, your health, physical and mental, and one more vital category, your long-term goals, the things you want to look back on in 3 to 5 years and say, I'm glad I started that back then. If that gas tank gets drained by lunchtime, through gossip, drama, hanging out just to hang out, then by evening you've got nothing left for those long-term things. So you choose Netflix over learning, scrolling over writing, falling into bed exhausted over doing one small thing for your future self. Staying home, with a more intentional schedule, means you're no longer fully controlled by other people's plans. You get to ask one simple question before each invite. Greater than, if I go to this, what do I really get? Greater than besides killing time? Greater than, if I say no, will I actually lose anything important? A lot of the time, your honest answer will be, actually, no. I'm not saying socializing, chatting, going out is useless. We're human, we need connection, sharing, joy. The real question is, what percentage of that is real connection? And what percentage is just filling a void? When you start staying home more on purpose, you begin to see how much you used to be blown around by social wind. Anyone asks, you try to make it. You're scared they'll think you're stuck up, distant, disappeared. You're scared of missing something fun. But the price of that fear is this. You constantly miss evenings that could have calmed you down, taught you something new, or helped you take one more step toward a different life. Staying home becomes your way of saying to yourself, greater than, I don't have to be everywhere. Greater than I choose to be where really matters to me. In practical terms, people who achieve a lot don't have 48 hours in their day. They also only have 24. The difference is that they spend less of those hours on just for fun, no real purpose. I'm just going because everyone else is. They're not necessarily antisocial, but they're very selective. Will this meetup bring me closer to what I want? Is this a person I genuinely want to invest my energy into? Staying home, pausing before you rush out, teaches you to make choices like that. Not because you look down on anyone, but because you're finally respecting your own limits. You realize you can't be close to the whole world, and at the same time build a career, a solid inner life, and a healthy body. You have to sacrifice some easy, instant fun, in exchange for slow but solid steps forward. Here's a tiny exercise. For 1 week, every time you get an invitation, don't answer right away. Turn off your screen. Take a few deep breaths. Then ask yourself, greater than, if I stayed home tonight, what important thing could I do for myself instead? Maybe it's writing one more page of the script for the YouTube channel you're planning, finishing part of a CV, application, or project, sitting down to redo your finances and 6-month goals, reading 20 more pages of that book you've been meaning to get to. If the answer is yes, there is something more important I could do, and that hangout doesn't offer anything truly meaningful, try saying, greater than, I've got something I need to handle tonight. Greater than, let's catch up another time. That something you need to handle is your own life. It might sound selfish, but it's the kind of selfishness you need if you don't want life to use you up until you're empty. In the end, staying home, in the way we've been talking about, isn't about running away from responsibility or cutting yourself off from society. It's about claiming a right the right to choose where your time and energy go. To choose which gatherings truly deserve your presence. To choose which goals get priority today, instead of letting random invites make those decisions for you. When you start saving your fuel for what really matters, your health, your learning, your personal projects, your family, your good relationships, your life slowly starts to change color. Less tired for no reason. Less, I'm always busy but going nowhere. Less, I don't have time. Because you've stopped letting other people spend your time for you. And one day, looking back, you'll see a big part of why you've gone farther, deeper, more steadily, came from those quiet nights at home, unseen, unposted, when you chose to save your fuel for your real path, instead of burning it all on meaningless wandering. Once you've learned to keep your energy for what truly matters, you can't avoid one uncomfortable truth. If no one is managing you, can you manage yourself? You can't blame your schedule, other people, or traffic anymore. At home, It's just you and a series of tiny decisions. What time you wake up? Do you do the work or delay it? Do you focus or drift? Right finger, that's when inner discipline shows up. And that's exactly what we'll explore in idea number 9. There's something very interesting that happens when you spend more time at home. There's no boss standing behind you, no back-to-back meetings, no one pushing you to finish this, then that. It sounds like freedom, but that's exactly when you're forced to answer a very hard question. Greater than, if no one's watching, no one's grading, no one's controlling me, how will I live? And from there, something very important begins to form. Or it becomes obvious that it doesn't exist yet. Right finger, inner discipline. Out there, a lot of things keep you in line. Working hours, deadlines, KPIs, coworkers' eyes, your boss's evaluation, class schedules, meeting schedules. You don't show up late because you're afraid of being punished. You get things done because you're afraid of losing money, getting scolded. You finish the task because the whole team is counting on me. That's external discipline. It's not bad. In fact, it's necessary. But it doesn't say much about who you really are. At home, no one is supervising you. You can stay up until 2 to 3 a.m. and no one will say anything. You can scroll your phone all evening and no one will directly judge you. You can put off all the important things until tomorrow, and it's true, no one will come and call you out. It's exactly in that no one is managing you space that you see clearly. Right finger, how much you can actually manage yourself. I want you to imagine a day at home when no one interferes with your schedule. You open your eyes in the morning. In that first moment, no one is forcing you to get up. No meeting alarm, no one calling to rush you. You can stay in bed for another 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, nothing happens. But if you just lie there, grab your phone, scroll back and forth, by the time you sit up it's nearly noon. Inside you feel a bit uneasy, a bit disappointed in yourself. But then you comfort yourself, it's fine, it's the weekend. Then afternoon comes, you think, I'll do it tonight. Night comes, you're tired again, and you drop it. A whole day passes, no one yells at you. But inside there's a very soft sigh. And if many days like that line up, that feeling grows into greater than, I'm abandoning myself. At home, you can't blame the environment, traffic, or meetings. You're face to face with the truth. Right finger, if you don't manage your own time, it will slip away, quietly, but forever. Now imagine the same day, but you choose differently. You set an alarm at a reasonable time, not super early. Just early enough that you have a morning for yourself. The alarm rings, you allow yourself 5 more minutes. Then you firmly sit up. You make your bed, drink some water, do a few simple movements. Then spend 30 to 60 minutes on something important. Studying, reading, writing, doing deep work, planning. No one is forcing you. No one will know if you don't do it. But you still do it. That's inner discipline being built. One small action at a time. Not discipline out of fear. But discipline out of self-respect. Greater than, my future matters enough for me to sleep 30 minutes less. Greater than, my dream is worth putting my phone down for a while. Inner discipline isn't just about time management. It's also about managing your work and your emotions when you're alone. When you're home working or studying, it's easy to swing between 2 extremes. Either you go so hard you forget to eat and rest, until you burn out, or you can't even get started. Just circling between your desk, the fridge, and your phone. Inner discipline is when you know. Greater than, at this time, I work, at that time, I rest. You don't need reminders, notifications, or a deadline breathing down your neck. You know how to set your own limits. Work 60 to 90 minutes. Then stand up, walk around, rest your eyes. In the evening, after a certain hour, you stop touching work so your mind can recharge. That's not weakness. That's understanding that if you want to go long distance, you have to know how to pace yourself. Emotionally, it's the same. When you're busy and constantly pulled by the outside world, you often don't have time to notice how you're really doing. You're angry but keep going. You're tired but keep running. Until your body finally shuts down. At home, especially when there's no noise to cover things up, those feelings show up more clearly. Sometimes you feel sad for no clear reason. Empty for no clear reason. Like you're not good enough for no clear reason. Inner discipline is when you don't immediately run off to find something to numb it. But dare to sit with it and admit. Greater than, yeah, today I feel insecure. Greater than, yeah, that situation really hurt me. Then, you don't let yourself drown in it. You pick up a pen and write a few lines. Do some deep breathing. Take a warm shower. And gently talk to yourself with simple words. Greater than, feelings are just feelings. They will pass. Greater than, I still have things to do. Things I want to build. No one taught you to do that. No one gives you a grade. But if you train this, you'll see. You're no longer so easily dragged around by your emotions. From a Stoic perspective, true freedom isn't doing whatever you feel like, but greater than knowing what you're doing and why you're doing it. At home, if you pay attention, you'll clearly see a lot of your behaviors have been automatic reactions, not conscious choices. Bored? Open social media. Sad? Eat. Stressed? Watch something, anything, just to forget. Inner discipline starts the moment you can catch yourself. Greater than, I'm acting on autopilot again. Then gently change course. Greater than, instead of opening my phone right away, I'll go wash my face. Drink some water. Greater than, then decide what to do. It sounds small. But those tiny, micro turns, repeated over and over, are what put you back in the driver's seat of your life. Many people are only disciplined when someone's watching. The boss is there, they work fast. The boss leaves, they slow down. Friends around? They pretend to be focused. Alone? They slack off. But your life won't change just because you act well in front of others. Your life changes, or not, based on what you do when only you will ever know. At home, no one praises you for reading 20 more pages. No one claps because you focused for an hour. No one gives you a medal for being kind to yourself when your mood crashes. Only you know. And only you will reap the results. In the end, staying home, in the sense we're talking about, isn't about running away from responsibility or giving up. It's a testing ground to see how much you can actually master yourself. You can set your own schedule and stick to it. You can start and finish on time, without someone yelling. You can notice when you're drifting, and pull yourself back. No alarms needed, no scolding, no one standing behind you. When you build that kind of inner discipline, you carry it with you out into the world. Into your work. You no longer work just because you're forced to, but because you understand how it matters to your journey. Into your relationships. You don't react impulsively as much. You know how to pause, breathe, and respond in ways you'll regret less. Into your future. You know what you're planting today. And you accept both the difficulty of planting and the beauty of the harvest. And a lot of that begins on days that seem like just staying home. Days when you quietly learn how to be your own friend, your own teacher, and your own reliable manager. Once you've started managing yourself better, without anyone standing behind you reminding you, a bigger question naturally appears. Greater than, where am I managing myself toward? You don't just want to live okay. You want to know. Right finger, what is my life actually moving toward? In that moment, staying home and slowing down becomes a precious rest stop, where you can ask, what should I keep? What should I let go of? What should I double down on? Right finger, that's idea number 10 asterisk. Resetting your life goals. There are phases in life when, if you're honest with yourself, you realize you're running without a clear finish line. You're very busy. Your schedule is packed. Days fly by. But if someone asks you, greater than, so what are you actually running for? You hesitate for a moment. Not because you have no answer, but because you've never really sat with yourself long enough to ask that question all the way to the end. Staying at home, in quiet, is exactly the place and time where you have the chance to do that. Right finger to asterisk reset your life goals. Normally, when you're out there in the world, it's so easy to live on autopilot. Today equals tasks carried over from yesterday plus random demands from other people plus messages, emails, and drama barging in. You just react, 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 from one thing to the next, from one week to the next. And then one day, in some rare moment, often when you're already exhausted, you suddenly ask, greater than, wait, am I living according to asterisk my plan? Greater than or just being pushed along by everyone else's current? At home, when you deliberately turn down the noise, the silence begins to open up a different kind of question. Not, what do I have to do today? But, greater than, where have I actually been heading this whole year? Greater than, in the last 5 years, have I moved closer to what I truly want, or further away? These are questions that are very hard to touch. If you're always out on the road, I want you to imagine an evening at home. No plans. No pressure to answer messages immediately. No, I have to finish this episode since I already started it. You sit down at the table, maybe with a notebook and pen, or just a blank sheet of paper. You write one sentence at the top. Greater than, what am I doing all this for? It sounds simple, but if you take it seriously, this question can turn your whole life around. Why do you go to work? Just for the paycheck? Or because it's a stepping stone towards something bigger you want to build? Why are you trying so hard to make money? To spend it so you don't feel bored or sad? Or to buy yourself more freedom of choice in the future? Why do you maintain certain relationships? Because you truly value them? Or because you're afraid of what people will say? Afraid of being alone? At home, there's no one next to you commenting or judging. You have the right to answer brutally honestly with yourself. With quiet space, you also start to see more clearly what needs to be let go of. There are goals you've carried for years that, if you look closely, aren't really yours. They're your parents' expectations, society's expectations, some successful person template you unconsciously swallowed. You chase a title, a certain kind of job, a certain lifestyle because, greater than, that's what a successful person is supposed to look like. Greater than, at this age, people are supposed to be like this. But at home, behind a closed door, there are nights when you lie down and feel empty. Greater than, do I really want this? Out there, it's easy to mute that question. With a few hangouts, a few drinks, a few hours of scrolling. But at home, if you allow yourself to sit still, that question comes back, clearer, more persistent. And this is where courage begins. Right finger the courage to admit that some goals have reached the point where they need to be dropped. Not because you're weak, but because you've grown enough to know what no longer fits you. You let them go to return your time, energy, and mental space to other stars that are truly yours. On the other hand, in those quiet nights, you'll also notice there are small things that, every time you think about them, make your heart light up a little. Maybe it's a creative project you always say, I'll do it when I'm less busy. Maybe it's a plan to study more, switch fields, or start a small business you often think about, then shut down yourself. Maybe it's a childhood dream that you locked away because, I'm an adult now, I have to be realistic. At home, when you're not surrounded by the noise of, you should do this, you must do that, you begin to hear, greater than, actually, I do want to try that. Greater than, honestly, I still really love this. When you write it out, you might be surprised. The life you want is quite different from the life you're currently chasing. And that's when you need to ask the second half of the question. Greater than, what needs to be done more strongly? There are things you are doing, but too rarely, too randomly. You touch them once a month and then stop. So a year passes, and you're still standing in the same place. You want a healthier body, but you only exercise 2 to 3 times a month for form. You want to improve your English, but every time you open a book, it's only for 5 to 10 minutes before you quit. You want to build a channel, a side career, but it's only fun to think about. You've never sat down to plan and work on it consistently. At home, when you flip back through your journal, your to-do lists, or simply look at how you've been spending your time, you'll have to tell yourself, greater than, if I don't go harder on this, it will never become anything. And go harder usually doesn't mean doing something huge and flashy. It means giving it a fixed time slot every day or every week. Cutting out some meaningless activities so it actually has room. Committing to yourself that, no matter how little, it shows up consistently. At home, you finally have the control to adjust your rhythm like that. If you're out too much, you get swept into everyone else's rhythm and have no energy left to set your own. On a deeper level, resetting your life goals isn't just sitting around, making a glossy vision board and then forgetting about it. It's a continuous Q&A with yourself. Greater than, am I doing this out of fear or out of love? Greater than, am I doing this because I'm being pushed or because I chose it? Greater than, if I'm still living like this 5 years from now, will I be okay with that? At home, when you're not constantly running, those questions finally have time to sit with you long enough to sting a little. And sometimes, that sting is what makes you change direction a bit. You don't need to spin 180 degrees overnight. Just shifting 5 to 10 degrees, but keeping that shift for a few years, will take you to a completely different place. You can try a small exercise one evening at home. 1. Write down **** 3 things * you've spent the most time on in the past 6 months. 2. Write down **** 3 things * that your heart knows you want to live more fully with. 3. Compare the two lists. If they overlap, you're living pretty close to your true self. If they almost don't intersect at all, then maybe it's time to sit down, calm down, and honestly adjust your course. Adjusting doesn't mean throwing everything away and starting from zero. Sometimes it just means cutting down on a few meaningless hangouts, a few time-killing habits, so that you can add 30 minutes of learning each day. Add 1 session per week for a personal project. Add 10 minutes every night to think about 1 to 2 small steps that bring you closer to the life you want. Those small changes, done over a long enough time, amount to a total restructuring. In the end, staying home, in the spirit we're talking about, is not about shrinking or giving up. It's a step back to look at the map of your life. You can't adjust your direction if you're always running. You need rest stops, quiet evenings, slow mornings, unrushed weekends, to ask yourself, greater than, am I really going in the right direction? And if the answer is not quite, the good news is, you're still here. You still have time. You still have the chance to turn the wheel, even if just a little. You can't rewrite the past. But in the quiet of your room right now, you absolutely can rewrite the rest of the story. Starting from one serious question to yourself. Greater than, whose life is this? Greater than, and from tomorrow on. Greater than, whose wishes am I going to live it by? Once you've reviewed your goals, you'll start to see very clearly. Often, the reason you're not moving forward isn't that you lack dreams. It's that your money keeps disappearing without you knowing where it went. All the just for fun spending, to feel better, to keep up with others, quietly steals away your chance to invest in learning, health, and your future. Staying home is exactly when you have enough quiet to open your bank statement, face the numbers, and be brutally honest with yourself. Right finger, that's the heart of idea number 11. Reviewing your spending habits and prioritizing investment in what truly deserves it. If you sit down calmly and open your bank history, e-wallets, Shopee, credit card, for the last 3 months, are you sure you won't be shocked? Not because of the big expenses like buying a house or a car, but because of the small ones. Very small, that show up over and over. Order food so I don't have to cook. I'm too tired. One milk tea just for fun. This shirt is on sale. It'd be a waste not to buy. This app subscription is just a few bucks. Might as well sign up. Each one on its own doesn't cost much. But when you add them up, a lot of people are burning a huge amount of money just to feel less bored, feel a bit happy, or keep up with others. While the things that actually matter, like education, health, and the future, get pushed to the back. Staying home, in the true sense we've been talking about, gives you a very precious chance. Right finger to look back at your spending habits, cut down on, just for fun, expenses, and start using money like a grown-up with direction. Normally, when you go out a lot, you're stepping into environments designed to make you spend. Malls are covered in sale signs. Cafes and restaurants are beautifully decorated, with food and drinks laid out to tempt you. Friends say, "Come hang out. It's fun here. They have some great new dishes." Not to mention that going out often triggers chain spending. You intend to just grab a coffee to change the mood. But once you're there, you see pastries and order more. You sit longer, so you order another drink. On the way home, you stop by a convenience store and pick up a few little things. That night, you open an app and see ads. Buy this. It's trending right now. And your finger accidentally taps. Just like that, money slips away very smoothly. You only feel like, I'm always short, but you don't really know where it's gone. When you stay home more and stop putting yourself into those spending traps as often, two things happen at the same time. 1. You have fewer chances to spend impulsively. 2. You have more quiet moments to look back and ask, greater than, what on earth have I been doing with my money? I want you to imagine an evening at home. Just you, your phone, and the last 3 months of bank statements. You scroll through and look at each transaction. All the late-night food deliveries because you were too lazy to cook. All the addicted to flash sale moments. All the subscriptions for entertainment apps you only opened a couple of times all month. You can try something very simple but eye-opening. Right finger mark every expense that's just for fun. If I hadn't spent this, I would still be fine. My life wouldn't be worse. Then add them up. That number could easily be tuition for a 2 to 3 month course to upgrade your skills. The cost of a proper full health checkup. Seed money to start a small project you always say you'll do when I have money. Or several months of regular contributions to a small investment fund, so you don't panic every time there's a financial crisis. At home, the quiet atmosphere makes it harder to keep excusing yourself. Greater than, come on, it's not that much. Greater than, life is for enjoying, right? Greater than, I work so hard. Why suffer by saving? You start to tell the difference between enjoyment with awareness versus spending just to fill an inner emptiness. From a psychological standpoint, a lot of impulsive spending doesn't come from real needs, but from feeling bored, empty, sad, or stressed. The fear of not being as good as others. The habit of using shopping, eating as self-reward. At home, when you slow down, you start to see clearly. Greater than, am I using money to solve my emotions? For example, you argue with someone or get scolded by your boss. Instead of letting yourself sit down, write out your feelings, breathe, walk, stretch. You open a food app and order something to feel less sad. You open Shopee, swipe and click, add to cart, just to forget about it. And the next morning, the old problem is still there. The only difference is your account balance is lower. At home, if you pay attention, you'll see how many times you repeat this loop. And once you see it, you can start to steer differently. Greater than, okay, I'm sad, but instead of spending money, I'll try something else to process this feeling. That's when you begin to separate money from emotion. And that is a huge step toward financial maturity. You pull back from constant social plans. Spend less on commuting, eating out, and mindless shopping. You'll discover something surprising. Right finger, you actually have more financial room than you thought. The problem isn't necessarily that you earn too little, even though increasing income is still a good goal. The problem is that your cash flow is leaking into many places that don't deserve it. From there, you can start thinking more seriously. Greater than, if I cut 20 to 30% of my, just for fun, spending, where could I put that money to make my future less tight? Maybe signing up for an online course that truly increases your value, professional skills, language, thinking, getting checkups, tests, taking care of your teeth, joints, eyes, before they turn into big problems. Building an emergency fund with at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses, so you don't fall apart when work changes. Trying small-scale investing in a financial product you understand and accept the risk for. At home, when you're not constantly bombarded with spend triggers, it's much easier to sit down and calculate, plan, and learn about these things. You can start with a very simple at-home exercise. 1. Write down your average monthly income. 2. Write down your spending categories. Fixed, ***, rent, utilities, internet, family support. Necessary, ***, food, transportation, medicine, ***, for fun, ***, coffee, milk tea, online shopping, entertainment apps, eating out, I felt like buying it. 3. Estimate the percentage for each category. Many people will be shocked to see the for fun category taking up 20 to 40% of their income. While they're saying, I don't have money to study more. I don't have money to invest. I can't afford a full health check. At home, sitting in front of the numbers, it's much harder to lie to yourself. You're forced to face the reality. Greater than, am I prioritizing short-term fun or long-term safety? From a Stoic point of view, money is not something to show off, but a tool to help you live more freely. Free from having to force yourself into work that goes against your values. Free to have time to rest, learn, and care for yourself. Free from completely collapsing every time something unexpected happens. To have that kind of freedom, you don't have to be ultra-rich. But you do need to use money more consciously. At home, when you're no longer stuck in the who spends more, who lives more chill contest, you can start asking, greater than, does this expense bring me closer to freedom? Greater than or just make me more addicted? Greater than, am I buying an object or experience? Greater than or just another layer to cover up fear or inner emptiness? The answer won't always feel comfortable. But that's exactly what helps you adjust how you spend money. And, deeper than that, how you treat your own future. The important thing isn't cutting out all joy. A coffee with someone you love. A good meal to celebrate finishing a project. A small treat you buy for yourself once in a while. There's nothing wrong with that. What matters is, right finger, do you know what you're actually doing with your money? At home, with a slower pace, you have time to pause before each spending decision and ask a tiny but powerful question. Greater than, do I truly want this? Or is it just impulse? Greater than, does this serve my learning, health, and future? Greater than, or is it just to keep me from feeling bored for 5 minutes? If, on average, you can answer those questions honestly just a few more times each month, and say no to a few pointless expenses, then a few years from now, you'll be grateful to the version of you who stayed home, thought it through, planned ahead, and cared about the future. Because those small decisions, repeated over time, will create a huge difference between 2 lives. One that always complains, where did all my money go? And one that can calmly say, greater than, yeah, I'm not loaded. Greater than, but I'm using my money to build what I truly believe matters. Once you start spending more consciously, you'll notice something interesting. A lot of the things you bought, a lot of the things you did, weren't as necessary as you thought. And then another need appears. Not just simplifying your finances, but simplifying your whole life, from belongings to your schedule to distractions. Right finger, that's when we move into idea number 12, asterisk. The art of minimalist living at home. Something very interesting happens when you start getting used to staying home. Everything around you suddenly comes into sharp focus. That pile of stuff you haven't touched in ages. Those corners of the house full of things you'll organize tomorrow. Appointments you once thought were really necessary suddenly turn out to be not that big a deal if you cancel. And even in your own mind, all the things you thought you must have, must do, must achieve start being questioned. Slowly, you realize, right finger, maybe you don't need as much as you thought. Minimalism often sounds like it's about Korean-style interiors, white walls, clean lines, tidy furniture. But if you look deeper, minimalist living is really the art of removing what's unnecessary, so there's enough space for what truly matters. At home, you get the chance to clearly see 3 layers of stuff in your life. Physical things, appointments, and thoughts. All 3, if left uncleared, will take up all the space where your peace could be. Let's start with the easiest to see, physical stuff. When you spend more time at home, you'll have moments where you stand in the middle of your room and ask, greater than, why'd I have this much stuff? Your closet is packed, but every morning you still sigh, I have nothing to wear. Books are stacked high, but half of them still haven't had the plastic wrap taken off. Skincare, gadgets, random tools. Some bought because people said it's good. Some because it's on sale. Some because, who knows, I might need it later. Just trying to clean one shelf, one drawer, you'll see. Right finger, there are so many things you paid for, but never really used to make your life better. At home, when you start letting go of the items that no longer serve your life, you're not just clearing physical space. You're sending yourself a message. Greater than, I don't need to own a lot to feel enough. Greater than, I choose to keep only what I truly use, truly love, and truly find meaningful. And when you have fewer things, you'll be surprised. Your home feels bigger, even though the square meters are the same. Your chest feels less tight, even if your outer life hasn't changed much. Cleaning, organizing, and finding things suddenly become so much easier. Less stuff, but each item has a real reason to be there. That's a very different feeling. Then comes your schedule. In the past, you might have felt that the fuller your schedule, the more valuable you were. Coffee dates, dinners, hangouts, events, meetings. Looking at a calendar packed from Monday to Sunday gave you the sense. I'm living, I matter, I'm not being left behind. But after a while, if you're honest, you'll see. You're tired. Tired of so many, for the sake of it, meetups. Tired of sitting with people you don't really connect with, repeating the same conversations. Tired of coming home and feeling completely drained, with no energy left for anything that's just for you. At home, when you allow yourself not to accept every invite, every, let's hang out, every social plan, you slowly realize. Right finger, fewer appointments, but higher quality. Instead of going out every week, you start choosing carefully. Who actually makes you feel like you can be your real self? Which events are truly related to what you're pursuing? When to say no to hangouts that exist just to avoid loneliness or fear of being judged. Then, each meeting becomes more memorable, deeper. You no longer show up just to show up. You go because you genuinely want to. With fewer plans in your calendar, the empty spaces become precious time to rest properly, learn, read, work on personal projects. Sit down and ask yourself what you're actually living for. And then, the deepest layer, internal distractions. In a noisy society, countless things compete for your attention. Social media, news, drama, short videos, new trends, messages, emails. Your brain is always online, but rarely truly focused on one thing. At home, if you start cutting down on mindless scrolling, the habit of grabbing your phone whenever you don't know what to do, your dependence on constant noise, you'll slowly experience something quite strange. Right finger your mind has empty space. Empty not as in nothing inside, but empty so that a new idea has room to grow. A deep question has room to echo. A sadness has room to be seen clearly, then gently dissolve. Minimalism in thinking doesn't mean thinking less. It means thinking less scattered so you can think deeper about what truly matters. You no longer need to know everything about everyone. You don't have to join every argument. You don't have to comment on every trending topic. You become more selective about what you allow into your mind. Less distraction, but more presence. When you eat, you actually know you're eating. When you read, you know you're reading, not reading while scrolling. When you're with loved ones, you're actually there, not just a body holding a phone. Minimalism, at the end of the day, is about asterisk priorities. As you get used to being at home, you begin to see clearly. How many things do you really need? How many relationships do you really need? How much information do you really need to know? And more importantly, what do you want to spend your time, energy, and love on? You'll discover. Maybe you only need a few real friends. A few outfits that truly suit you. A few healthy habits. And a few clear long-term goals. The rest, all the extra stuff to look full, to look like everyone else, can actually be reduced. You let go, not so your life becomes dull, but so it becomes richer in quality. Less stuff, but you actually use and appreciate each thing. Fewer friends, but each conversation is deeper and more genuine. Fewer appointments, but each block of time is used with intention. Someone once said, greater than, the more minimalist your home is. Greater than the easier it is for your heart to breathe. I think spending more time at home, mindfully, is exactly the chance to start that journey. Decluttering your home. Decluttering your schedule. Decluttering your mind. You don't have to change 180 degrees overnight. Just let go of one meaningless social plan each week. One item you no longer use. One source of distraction? A few months later, you'll find yourself standing in a completely different space. Right finger a space of less, but better. And in that space, what you have more of isn't stuff or loud laughter, but more focus on what you truly want. More peace in your everyday life. More quality in each relationship, each decision, each moment. If you're asking, greater than, how do I feel less tired, less overwhelmed, less like I'm always missing something? The answer may not be in getting more, but in having less and making it simpler. And the easiest place to start that journey is the home you're in right now, with one small decision. Greater than, today, I'll choose less, so I can live deeper. When you have fewer things, fewer plans, fewer distractions, you realize you've gained something you've always lacked. Space asterisk, both outside and inside. And in that space, the personal projects you once put aside and forgot start quietly calling you. Greater than, hey, remember us? Writing, drawing, creating content, learning new skills. All the things that can make your life richer and deeper. Finally have room to grow. Right finger, that's exactly idea number 13. Nurturing personal projects in the quiet time you have at home. If you pay attention, there's always a just leave it there for later corner in your life. It might be a folder on your computer called Ideas, Personal Projects, YouTube Scripts, or Unfinished Novel. It might be a sketchbook with a few half-finished drawings, those first pages full of excitement and then nothing. It might be an online course you bought a long time ago but only watched lesson 1 and 2. It might be your intention to learn guitar, photography, design, or to seriously restart your English, but for years it has stayed in the I'll do it when I have time zone. And that, when I have time, almost never comes. Because out there, work schedules, social plans, kind of fun, hangouts. It'd be awkward if I say no, meetups, always cut in line first. Meanwhile, your personal projects, the things that nourish the deepest part of who you are, keep getting pushed to the very bottom. When you're at home, and you truly give yourself quiet pockets of time, that, just leave it there for later, corner finally has a chance to come back to life. I want you to think of something you used to really love. Maybe it's writing. Back then, you wrote blogs, stories, or journal entries regularly. Looking back, you realize you were the clearest, truest, and deepest version of yourself when you wrote. But then you started working. Life got busy, and you stopped without even noticing when. Maybe it's drawing. As a kid, you drew all the time, coloring, sketching, inventing characters. As you grew up, you started hearing things like, "You can't make a living from art. Focus on something practical," and your colored pens ended up lying still in a drawer. Maybe it's creating content, making videos, telling stories. You watch others on YouTube, TikTok, or podcasts and secretly think, "I wish I had the courage to try that." You've had ideas, scripts, maybe even drafted some things. But then you overthink, criticize yourself, postpone. "I'll do it later." At home, in that quiet space where no one is demanding anything from you or watching your every move, those seeds can finally be watered again, if you're willing to gently open that old drawer. Time at home, if you don't automatically equate, staying in equals curling up and scrolling on your phone, can feel completely different. It can become your personal studio. The dining table becomes your writing desk for 1 to 2 hours every evening. The corner by the window becomes where you set up a tripod and record your first videos. Even if you're still shy, a blank wall becomes a mini gallery for your early sketches. You don't need your own room, fancy setups, expensive mics, or pro cameras to start. In fact, when you don't have any of that yet, home is actually the easiest place to begin. Because no one is staring, no one is judging you for trying, failing, and trying again. You can record a video on your phone with nothing but window light. You can write your first blog post on a free platform. You can draw what you see every day, a cup, a plant, your own face in the mirror. You don't need to think about making money, going viral, or getting famous right away. You just need to ask, greater than, does this make me feel more real, more alive, more fulfilled? If the answer is yes, then your time at home is invisible capital you can invest to help it grow. One of the biggest reasons personal projects die young is because you only work on them when you feel inspired. Inspiration is rare, distractions are everywhere. You spend all day outside, come home exhausted, tell yourself, "I'm too tired, I'll do it tomorrow." Then tomorrow looks just like today. At home, when you actively rearrange your rhythm, you can create sacred time blocks for your personal projects. 30 to 45 minutes every morning before your day starts. Or 1 hour every night before bed, no social media, no news. You tell yourself, greater than, this time block is mine, not my boss's, not my family's, not social media's, just mine. At first, you might only get a tiny bit done. Write a few paragraphs, draw a few lines, tweak a few lines of script, complete a small part of your course. But if you keep that time block, day after day, week after week, you'll realize that what you've been missing all along isn't talent, it's quiet consistency. I know not everyone can walk away from their main job. Not everyone has the luxury to quit and chase their passion. But I also know there are many people who still go to work, still take care of their families, and still build a beautiful second life for themselves. An office worker who writes stories every night and, after a year, finishes a first manuscript. An engineer who studies design on the side and, 2 years later, lands their first freelance job and slowly expands from there. A young person recording small videos in a cramped rented room, posting regularly, and gradually growing their own community. What do they have in common? They treat their time at home as soil to plant in, not just a place to dump their stress. They still get tired, still feel bored sometimes, still have days where they don't want to do anything. But they keep a small promise. Greater than, every day. I'll do something for my project, no matter how small. Those tiny efforts add up and turn what used to be, just left there, into a real part of their life. On a deeper level, personal projects aren't just about extra income or a fun achievement. They're how you tell yourself. Greater than, I wasn't born just to work, eat, sleep, and let the days slip by. When you write, draw, create content, or learn a new skill, you are giving your inner voice a place to speak, giving your curiosity a place to play, giving your soul something to grow into, instead of shrinking from only worrying about survival. At home, where no one is grading you or comparing you in real time, you get to try, fail, fix, do, pause, continue without needing to dress it up. You're allowed to be clumsy. You're allowed to be bad at it. You're allowed to erase and start again. That's a kind of creative freedom that's hard to find out in society. You might ask, greater than, but what if I keep doing it and never succeed? Greater than, no one reads, no one watches, no one hires me, no one pays me, what then? That's a very real question. But there's another equally real question. Greater than, 3 to 5 years from now, will I regret more that I tried and it didn't turn out as I hoped, or that I never really tried at all? Time at home, in a deeper sense, is your chance to live a life with fewer what-ifs. What if I had started writing earlier? What if I'd stuck with the guitar, drawing, or that language? What if I dared to film that first awkward video? No one knows how far a personal project can take you. But one thing is certain. If you keep leaving it in the later corner, it won't take you anywhere. In the end, you don't have to turn your time at home into some harsh productivity bootcamp. You still have the right to rest, watch movies, sleep in, do nothing. But alongside that, give a portion of it to the things that feed your soul and your future. 1 page of writing a day. 1 drawing a week. 1 video every Sunday. 1 course completed in 2 to 3 months. Those numbers aren't flashy, but they carry a strange power. They make you feel like you're actually living, not just drifting. And one day, you might realize, those quiet nights at home, when you sat in front of a blank screen, blank page, or blank canvas, were actually the most beautiful chapters in the story you're writing about your own life. When you use your time at home to do things that matter to you, instead of just filling empty space, you're sending yourself a very powerful message. Greater than, I am interesting and worthy enough, even when I'm completely on my own. And slowly, your emotional dependence on the crowd starts to loosen. You're no longer panicked when no one invites you out, when no one remembers your name in every social circle. Right finger, that's exactly the spirit of idea number 14. Emotional independence, not needing the crowd to feel like you matter. There is a very small moment that actually marks a very big turning point in a person's life. It's the moment you look at invitation messages, scroll through stories of people going out, see all the party hard photos online, and you gently say to yourself, greater than, yeah, tonight I'm choosing to stay home. Not because no one invited you. Not because you're undesirable, boring, or bad at being outgoing. But because deep down, you know, your value does not lie in whether you're sitting in the middle of a crowd tonight or not. There's a whole culture constantly repeating one subtle message. People who are worldly, savvy, are the ones who go out a lot, party a lot, show up everywhere. Staying home on the weekend is pitiful, sad, means you have no friends. Looking at clips of people laughing, clinking glasses, dancing under lights, your brain easily believes, greater than, if I'm not there, maybe I'm living the wrong way. But have you noticed, sometimes the loudest person in the crowd is actually the loneliest one when they get home? They have the most laughter, the most stories, but when the lights go off and they lie down, they still face the same question. Greater than, if tomorrow no one invites me anywhere, will I still feel like I matter? When you choose to stay home, and feel okay with that choice, you are doing something very brave. You unplug your emotional, life support from the crowd's hands, and plug it back into where it truly belongs, inside yourself. You no longer define yourself by how many people texted you today, how many plans you have on the weekend, how often your name pops up in the group chat. You start defining yourself by quieter, but much more truthful things. Am I living in alignment with my own values? Do I respect my own feelings and boundaries? Am I doing things that make me proud of myself, even if no one knows? That is emotional independence. I want you to imagine a Saturday night. You're at home, alone, with no loud music blasting, no TV on just for background noise. Maybe you make yourself a cup of tea, read a few pages, write a few lines, or simply sit quietly looking out the window. While you're there, your phone lights up. Friends' stories at a bar, a restaurant, some rooftop, loud music, pretty lights, everyone laughing. In the past, your heart might have pinched a little. Greater than, why am I not there? Greater than, am I being weird by not going? Greater than, if I don't show up, will they forget about me? But tonight, you just smile. Greater than, yeah, they're having fun in their way. Greater than, and I'm okay here, in my way. You don't feel envy. You don't belittle yourself. You don't rush to grab your jacket and run out just to catch the fun. You know clearly. Your real joy doesn't have to be in sync with everyone else's joy. That is a very clear sign of a maturing inner world. From a psychological perspective, our emotions are very sticky to other people's reactions. Praise, right-pointing arrow, we get excited. Criticism, right-pointing arrow, our mood crashes. Being invited, right-pointing arrow, we feel valuable. Being left out, right-pointing arrow, we immediately ask, am I not good enough? Is that why they forgot me? When you depend on the crowd, your inner world becomes like a light switch out in a storm. The wind blows, right-pointing arrow, it flicks on. The rain falls, right-pointing arrow, it flicks off. The sun comes up, right-pointing arrow, it shorts and flickers. But when you start choosing to stay home, not to run away, but to choose, you're doing something like pulling that switch into your own house and saying, greater than, from now on, my emotions will not depend entirely on who invites me where, who thinks I'm interesting, who validates me. At home, you learn to create your own kind of joy. The joy of finishing something you procrastinated on for a long time. The joy of completing the first chapter of the book you're writing. The joy of finishing a drawing and thinking to yourself, oh, that's actually not bad. The joy of doing a workout, taking a hot shower, and climbing into bed with a relaxed body. These joys aren't flashy, don't need filters, don't need trending audio, and don't have to be photographed and posted. But their aftertaste lasts much longer. You go to sleep feeling, I just did something meaningful for me, instead of, I just killed another evening so I wouldn't feel bored. When your happiness no longer depends on always having someone next to you or on always having a place to check in, you start experiencing a very deep kind of freedom. Freedom from the fear of being left behind. Emotional independence does not mean you don't need anyone, don't need connection, don't need love or friendship. Absolutely not. It simply means you don't use other people as painkillers for your inner wounds. You don't use the number of social plans as a measurement of your worth. You don't stay in a relationship just because you're afraid of being alone. When you can stay home with yourself and still feel full, you step into relationships from a completely different state. You give because you want to give. You stay because you truly value the connection. You leave when you know that place no longer respects you. Not staying only because, without them, I'm nothing. At home, you first learn how to be with yourself. From that sense of inner fullness, you go out and meet others, not to beg them to fill your emptiness, but to share your wholeness with them. From a Stoic perspective, inner peace must come from what you can control, your attitude, your choices, how you respond to difficulty, how you use your time and energy. Praise, criticism, other people's attitudes, whether anyone invites you anywhere today, those are all outside of your control. Choosing to stay home, on the days you need it, is like a small but powerful statement you make to yourself. Greater than, even if no one goes out with me tonight, I still deserve a decent evening for my life. Greater than I can still learn something. Take care of myself. Nourish my dreams. Greater than I don't become less valuable just because I'm not in any party photo tonight. Repeat that often enough, and it turns into a solid belief. At the beginning, you might feel a bit wobbly. FOMO, fear of missing out, will tug at you. Greater than, what if tonight they have so much fun and I'm not there? Greater than, what if there's someone new, a new opportunity, a new story that I'm missing? But ask yourself, if tonight you stay home and do something good for yourself, study, read, truly rest, take care of your health, take one more step in your personal project, are you missing out? Or are you choosing something else more important? The crowd gives you the feeling of belonging to asterisk them. But only when you know how to be alone do you get the feeling of belonging to asterisk yourself. And once you truly belong to yourself, you'll stop panicking just because no one invited you out today. In the end, choosing to stay home doesn't mean the crowd is bad. Going out is meaningless. It only says one small but powerful thing. Greater than, I respect my time. Greater than I respect my heart. Greater than I respect what I'm building. Greater than, and I know this. Greater than I have the right to be in the middle of a crowd. Greater than or sit alone in a small room. Greater than and my value does not change. When you reach that point, every time you stay home, it's no longer, no one invited me, but a deliberate decision, the decision of someone who has begun to take ownership of their emotional life. And once you've become more emotionally independent, you can be alone and still feel full. You can work alone and still feel meaningful. Then something very beautiful begins to grow. A quiet kind of confidence. No need to speak loudly. No need to prove anything. No need to chase anyone. You're steady from within, so every step you take out into the world becomes calmer and more grounded. Right finger, that will be the final piece of this journey. Idea number 15, quiet confidence born from being at ease with solitude. One day, you suddenly realize something strange. The things that used to freak you out, like being alone, having no one text you, no one inviting you anywhere, now don't scare you anymore. You sit alone in your room, no music, no TV, no one next to you. And instead of feeling empty, you feel normal, maybe even a little at ease. That's the first sign of something very precious. You're starting to feel comfortable with solitude. Before, every moment of silence made you uneasy. When there were no new notifications, you'd wonder, am I being forgotten? When you had no plans on the weekend, you felt less than someone else. Eating alone, going for coffee alone, watching a movie alone, all of it was tagged with the word pathetic in your head. But as you slowly learn to be with yourself, everything shifts. You discover that solitude doesn't mean no one needs me. Solitude is the time when you need you. You sit and drink a cup of coffee alone and you realize you can still taste the bitterness, smell the aroma, feel the warmth in your hands. That moment has value even without someone sitting across from you. You go for a walk alone and realize the streets, the sky, the sound of the wind, your own footsteps on the ground, all of that is enough to make a whole, complete afternoon. You start to accept and even love the moments when no one is beside you. No one is watching. And from there, a quiet kind of confidence is born. Quiet confidence isn't loud. It doesn't need to show off. It doesn't need to announce itself. It lives in very small, everyday moments. When someone doesn't like you, you don't rush to twist yourself into whatever shape pleases them. When you're not invited to some hangout, you don't immediately turn it into, I'm not good enough. When you see others moving faster, you don't instantly drag yourself down. Not because you don't know how to feel hurt, but because you have a solid inner axis. You know who you are. You know what you're trying for. You know your worth doesn't fit neatly inside anyone's passing glance. Solitude gives you the chance to build that axis. When you're alone, no crowd to blend into, no group to hide behind, you're forced to face a very direct question. Greater than, if I stand alone, with no praise, no recognition, would I still feel like I have value? The first answer might be no, or something very shaky. But with each time you sit down with yourself, each time you reflect, each small thing you do for you, the answer slowly becomes greater than, yes, I still have value, even when no one sees it. You write a page in your journal and don't post it anywhere. You practice a new skill and don't show it to anyone. You do something kind and never tell a soul. No one claps, no one hits like, no one messages you, proud of you bro, sis. But you feel a quiet nod inside. Greater than, yeah, this is true to me. Those moments of doing without needing an audience are the bricks that build quiet confidence. Before, maybe you were used to the loud kind of confidence. Needing to be better than someone. Needing others to see that you're not to be messed with. Needing to prove you're smart enough, fun enough, successful enough. But that kind of confidence is exhausting. Because it lives on comparison. The moment someone is better than you at something, it starts to shake. Once you're comfortable with solitude, your confidence moves to another level. You no longer need to stand above someone to feel taller. You just need to stand firmly on your own ground. You can admit, there are people way more talented than me. There are people younger, prettier, richer, faster. And you don't feel ashamed. Don't feel like a loser. Don't feel the need to chase them at all costs. You simply say, greater than, I'll walk at my own pace, on my own path. Greater than I wasn't born to be their copy. That's the calm of someone no longer haunted by an invisible race. When you're not busy chasing, you start choosing. Choosing what to do, instead of what just looks cool. Choosing who to be around, instead of clinging to some group just to keep up. Choosing silence when needed, instead of always having to speak up to prove something. You walk into a room without needing to draw attention. You talk less, but what you say comes from what you truly think, truly believe. You no longer feel compelled to adjust yourself to match every different group. People may not notice it at first, but over time they'll sense it. There's a certain solidity about you. Not flashy, not aggressive, but hard to shake. That solidity is forged in those quiet nights you sit alone, review what's happened, and draw your own lessons, not in the drunk, loud nights you can't even remember the next day. When you're steady inside, going out into the world stops being a performance. It becomes a natural extension. Because you don't need to prove, you can actually listen more. You hear what people are really saying, instead of just waiting for your turn to talk. You hear the needs, fears, and hurts behind their behavior. You stop treating every interaction as a stage for your ego, so you feel lighter. If you're wrong, you admit it, no need for long excuses. If you don't know, you say, I don't know, no need to bluff. If you can help, you help. If you can't, you don't, no need to pretend to be everywhere. People might like you, they might not. They might understand you, they might misunderstand you. You still feel a bit sad when you're misunderstood. Still happy when you're appreciated, you're human. After all. But those emotions no longer drag you to the sky or drown you at the bottom. They pass over you like waves moving across a lake whose depths remain very still. From a Stoic point of view, this is exactly the state they aim for. Not being numb, but not being dragged around by what's outside your control. Whether others like or dislike you, not in your control. Whether the crowd cheers you today and turns on you tomorrow, not in your control. Whether chances come and go, life goes up and down, even less in your control. What is in your control is how you face solitude, how you talk to yourself, how you choose to respond to whatever happens. When you dare to be alone, can endure being alone, can work alone, can heal many parts of yourself alone, you've built a home on the inside. From that inner home, you go out into the world not as a beggar. Greater than, please like me. Greater than, please validate me. Greater than, please make me feel like I matter. But as someone who already knows. Greater than, I have value even before you show up. Greater than if we meet, understand each other, and treat each other well, that's beautiful. Greater than if not, I can still go back to my own home, to the meaningful things I'm building. And one day, you'll see. Solitude is no longer a darkness that swallows you. It feels more like a quiet evening with warm lights, where you sit with a cup of tea, knowing how many storms you've gone through and realizing you're still here, more whole, deeper, steadier. From that place, when you step outside, you no longer need to chase anyone or prove anything. Each step feels firm in just the right way. Firm, because it carries thought, experience, and self-respect. But also light, because you're no longer dragging around a mountain of fear of being left behind. That's the greatest gift that becoming comfortable with solitude can give you. A kind of quiet confidence, warm, deep, and very, very hard for the world to take away. If you've listened all the way to this point, chances are that somewhere in these 15 ideas, you saw yourself in at least one part. Maybe in the phase where you're scared of being at home. Maybe at the point where you realize you're spending money to soothe your feelings. Maybe at the moment you start pulling back to reevaluate your relationships. Or maybe you're already in the process of building a quieter, deeper kind of confidence. Wherever you are on that journey, I just want to remind you of one thing. Right finger, you are not less than or out of place just because you choose to stay home. If you know how to use your time at home to understand yourself better, heal yourself more, train, study, and build your own future, then you're already going much further than a lot of people who only run outside to escape loneliness, but have never really sat down with themselves. Now, I genuinely want to hear from you. Among these 15 ideas, which one hit you the most? Where are you right now in this journey? Just starting to feel afraid of being at home? Learning to get used to it? Or have you already come to see being at home as your safe, peaceful base? Leave a comment below and share a little about you. I read everything. And there's a good chance I'll make more videos diving deeper into the ideas that many of you care about most. If this video was helpful, if it helped you feel less guilty about staying home, or gave you a new perspective on solitude, right finger hit like so the algorithm knows this is content worth spreading. Right finger share this video with a friend who's burnt out from having to show up everywhere. Right finger, and if you want to keep walking together on this path of building a calmer, steadier inner world day by day, hit subscribe and turn on the little bell so you don't miss the next videos. Thank you for spending your precious time here with me, walking through each layer of this art of staying home. I wish you, tonight, wherever you are, will find a small peaceful corner just for yourself. See you in the next video.